You know, we could have a loop that just says "What a set," but we are we are just stunned at how good this has been for how long now since August, and they did it again.
They did, and I was thinking about the various people that I've seen, commenting on the set lists and the length of the repertoire and stuff. But this is really that thing that we've been talking about all these years. It doesn't matter that if it's the fourth or fifth version of Birdsong on the tour, because everyone has been different from the others, and they've all been freaking magnificent. Here's what you heard in the first set tonight. Good Times, Shakedown Street into Bertha into, I don't know, the ninth or 10th new arrangement of Minglewood Blues since Bob started doing it 70 years ago. It Hurts Me Too, Tennessee Jed, and that bird song, that bird song, that bird song.
Yeah, I think Minglewood was only the second of the tour, so so that's been kind of a rarity, or maybe second or third. So there are still some possibilities for these last three sets of the weekend. Maybe some tour debuts at the last minute, or they'll pull out some of the tunes that they haven't played that often on the tour. But what they've done with the old standbys have been just fine with me. And we are here for this thing that we call Dead Air with Lambert and Gans. I'm Lambert, he's Gans. And we have a couple of guests we're going to bring out, but let's do the little spiel for nugs.net, shall we? David, you
Let's
take it this time.
what one of the things that's happening right now is this is being shown on Facebook and YouTube as a free preview of set two of the Dead and Company show. They've been showing the first song of each set since the beginning of time here, and they brought us in to provide a little more entertainment than a card that says please stay tuned in between sets here. So if you're watching this as the free preview, the idea is that you'll become so attracted to the idea of this music from us raving about it, etc., that you will go to livedead.co and examine the options that are available there. You can buy the show in HD or in 4K video. You can order downloads of everything going back to 2016 in a variety of audio formats. You can buy the entire tour, even though it's almost over, and then go back and watch the whole thing as many times as you like. Once you click on the start of each piece, each show, you have 2 days. You have 48 hours to watch it. So you could go back and relive the entire tour if you were so desired. And go to livedead.co to find out about that. And also, there's a subscription service and various other things. So, the upshot of my spiel here is to ask you to visit livedead.co and find out what nugs.net has to offer in the way of Dead and Company and lots of other music too. Live concerts going back for years, including like Springsteen stuff going back to the 70s, Wilco, Pearl Jam, lots of music. So check out livedead.co and nugs.net about that. And now let's get on with our interview.
Yes, indeed. Shall I do the honors? Two old friends of ours and two beloved members of our community who happen to be beloved to one another because they've been married for a good long time. She is a fantastic photographer, not just documenting the Grateful Dead, but she has taken beautiful photographs all over the world. And he was the Grateful Dead's longtime publicist and also official historian and biographer, and also a detailer of cultural history from all kinds of areas, from Jack Kerouac to music and its rise from the Mississippi Delta into the mainstream, and just a brilliant and perceptive observer of all these things. Will you please welcome Dennis McNally and Susanna Millman?
Hello
Wow.
there.
Oh, but you can say all the nice things you want. You still owe us a major bribe for having us follow last night, which was with John Mayer, one of the most amazing interviews. I've done a few, both ends of the process. That was ridiculous. Anyway, hi. Nice to be here.
In a good
Oh,
way,
it's great.
right?
Yeah. Well, as I said, you can now, spend the rest of your life dining out on the fact that John Mayer was your opening act.
Well, actually, what I was thinking, because am I allowed to say who's tomorrow?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned to me that it was Babs, and what I couldn't help but think was that it was like the Grateful Dead at Monterey. Before them was the Who destroying their instruments, and it was like their first major American show. And after them was Jimi Hendrix. And one of the critics said that Jerry's playing was some of the best of the weekend, which was really nice. And my comment was, as though anybody ever would remember it, sandwiched between those two. But anyway, here we are.
Anyway, look, very quickly, because Jacob, who's behind the scenes running this thing, has a lot of other stuff to get done. I want to show your book covers in the early part of this, because he won't be here to show them at more opportune moments later while we're talking. So let's quickly, I think he's got Susanna's book cover first, Alive with the Dead.
Well chosen.
Jacob, there you go.
Yes.
A fly on the wall with a camera.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was me. And documenting all my time with the band around the scene, wonderful memories that I wanted to share with our community.
Great. We'll come back to talking about that. Let's look at the two book covers from Dennis. Dennis has actually 4 books of great merit, but only 2 of them we have slides for right now. This is his biography, The Long Strange Trip, The Inside History of the Grateful Dead. And also we have Jerry on Jerry. This is fabulous because this is available as both the audio of Dennis's interviews with Jerry and the text. A very cool thing. Thank you, Jacob, for showing those things. Dennis also is responsible for a book called Desolate Angel, a biography of Jack Kerouac, which was the thing that sort of was his ticket into the Grateful Dead world, because Jerry got interested in Dennis's book and got interested in having him do their story. And then more recently did a book called On Highway 61. So where do we begin talking with you guys?
Well, since we're a married couple, we should talk about how we met.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but Desolate Angel really had a great deal to do with that, because I had been reading Desolate Angel, and I was also developing a strong interest in the Grateful Dead, and Dick Lotfalla suggested introducing me to this guy, Dennis McNally, because we were neighbors in San Francisco. So Dennis and I got to be very good friends, and I had independently been friendly with Jerry through my friendship with Rock and Nikki Scully. Jerry lived in the downstairs flat. Rock and Nikki lived upstairs. Jerry, as you might imagine, didn't do too much of his own cooking. He would come upstairs for dinner. And so I got to have dinner with him a number of times. And, he was just a really, really great guy, as long as you didn't treat him like, air quotes, Jerry Garcia.
Right.
And anyway, so I met Dennis and we were friends. And then one day, Jerry said to me, "Hey man, you and McNally ought to get together." And the rest sort of is history. That was 36 years ago. Jerry said, "Well," and I asked him to walk me down the aisle, which he did. Because he was kind of our matchmaker. And also my dad had died, and my surrogate dad was out of the country, so he was a natural. And he was a little reluctant, because he said, "Well, the weddings I participated in haven't turned out all that well." But that's what the exception that proves the rule.
Wow, fantastic. Just Jerry as Yenta the matchmaker is one of the great, cultural mind blowers of all time. And I've seen the picture of him walking you down the aisle, and it's one of the sweetest things ever. Yeah.
And what was the best moment from that night or day that afternoon was that he was sitting in the green room or wherever it was with Susanna and the bridesmaids, all of whom were old friends of his. And one of the bridesmaids looked at him and said, "You look very nervous." And he went, "Yeah." And she said, "Jerry, you stand in front of 50,000 people. What's the problem here?" And he went, "I don't have my act." And as a matter of fact, the two of them, we chose a wonderful and appropriate and elegant song. One catch with our marriage or our wedding, pardon me, was that we didn't really have a rehearsal. Can you imagine saying, "Hey, Jerry, you want to like waste some extra time and come on into the city and hang?" So we said, we'll wing it. And the catch was that our wedding march was "Attics of My Life," which if you're like on your game and can go, one step, they didn't. Neither Susanna nor Jerry were prepared to do anything except sprint. And so after like half a verse, I'm trying frantically to wave to the guy who's running the sound system, cut it. But anyway, after that, it got really easy. It was fun.
I love it.
Very fun.
I love it.
Stuck.
One thing I think about you two, and I think about David and Rita, and I think about Blair Jackson and Regan McMahon. And when I was first getting into this, I don't know how anyone could have foreseen the concept of decades-long deadhead marriages between people who would still be loving this music and still participating in it, and then the multi-generational thing of deadhead kids and grandkids, and all that. I mean, for me, my following the Grateful Dead around was one of the things that made my parents despair for my future. And we now have these, and now we have grandparents taking their grandkids to shows, and it's just amazing.
Absolutely.
And obviously, go ahead, Dennis. No, you.
Well, I was just going to say, we've been together 36 years, and just as much deadheads as ever. But when Fare Thee Well happened, I thought that deadheadism would drivel away because everything dribbles away, right? I mean, most stuff ends. And when I come, I'm supposed to, Jerry asked me to write a book. I'm supposed to know something. Completely blew it and thought, okay, there'll be a slow. And then after about 6 months or a year, I suddenly realized, oh no, it just restarted until now we have this phenomenon. And it's not just, it's Dead & Company and it's 100 other bands. And it's because it's frankly, it's a love affair with the music and not people, individuals. And all I love it, including David, who plays Grateful Dead music really, really well.
Thank you. We all speak this language and we all preserve this culture. And I remember we asked Blair Jackson, I said this to Jerry in 1981, I said, this music's going to outlive the people who made it. And Jerry said, yeah, it probably is. And here we are. It's amazing how, as you noted, there are 100 Grateful Dead tribute bands around the country. And so to hear it being done so amazingly well at the top end of the scale by Phil and his people and by this outfit, and then to see, 27-year-old Jerry Garcia, guitarists playing this music, it's an awesome thing. We knew it was going to last forever, so we're here keeping it alive, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm glad David mentioned Phil, because Phil right now, as we speak, is holding down the East Coast Annex, playing the Capitol Theater for 3 nights.
Nice.
So all of the surviving inventors of this music are still incredibly vital. Phil's shows at the Capitol have been going till like 12:30, and he's 81 years old. And that's
Wow.
it's just an astonishment. I love it.
Hey,
You know,
we should
and
quickly mention.
analogy.
Oh,
You.
Okay. No, the great photographer Ansel Adams left all his negatives to the graduate students in photography, I believe, at the University of Arizona. And his comment was, well, these are just negatives, and people of the future are going to do different, wonderful things with them. And I think that that's very analogous to what's happened with the Grateful Dead music, language, and culture.
yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. The songs are there for all of us to carry forward, and the stories. There's stuff like, have you seen that Deadhead Stories book? This grassroots publication. A bunch of Deadheads just got together and started collecting stories, and they published like 2 volumes of these books. It's just, it's folklore being collected by the fans themselves. It's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing.
Why?
Sorry?
I said on the fly. It's just, it's real time collection thanks to the internet. But yeah, it's and the relationships don't go away. I mean, I met you guys 40 years ago, and
40,
very and that doesn't change. The guys that I went to my first show with, I saw 2 weeks ago in Boston when I was visiting back east, and we're still, if I get there, then we connect, and so forth and so on. And my entire life, it's all Jerry and Dick LaValla's fault. They connected me with Susanna, which meant Season, our daughter, and that's great life.
Yeah, and for anybody really new to the scene, when we talk about Dick LaValla, he was the creator of Dick's Picks. I mean, new people mostly know Dave's Picks, but their father was Dick's Picks.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
right. Because Dick was a fan who found his way to the center of the Grateful Dead world, was standing there in the office raving to Eileen Law about the importance of this music. Phil Lesh happened to be standing behind him, thought there was something important being said there, which led to Dick being hired as the archivist. I mean, there's so many amazing stories in this culture of people like us who wandered out from the nowhere into the middle of this shit, and Dick's is one of the most amazing of them all.
Right.
No, he really is kind of important. When the day that I got the call about his passing, I was sort of angry at the fates, but I just kept muttering, well, he gets the dedication. I'd finished my book and had it was dedicated to Jerry, duh. And but then I said, well, okay, there's the guy that the heart, and then there's the ultimate fan, and he was. And while we're talking about family connections, I'd like to bring up many people heard Bobby dedicate a song last night to Rob Lawson. Rob yes. Was one of the fleet of drivers, but not a very big fleet. I mean, it was the same folks time after time. All the years that I worked with the band on the road, at home and frankly even other places, we get the same people because we asked and we liked them. So anyway, Rob, I gather Rob is in hospice care and maybe closer to the door than the rest of us. And so anybody who has a private prayer that they want to throw up for Rob. And then on a more positive note, Robin Sylvester, who was the bass player, I guess that you can say, because Rat Dog is not exactly happening at the moment, was the bass player for Rat Dog for forever, and very sweet and such an English soul. I always think the English is flappable because, you never, Robin never, he never cracked. He was on. I rode a bus with him for 4 years, and as long as you didn't try and feed him lobster, we'd get to Boston, and it was like a big run to legal seafood. That way he drew the line. He was a very serious vegetarian. But anyway, he has needed some help, and if you go to David's, David has been doing a wonderful job of collecting people, for getting people to know about this and dealing with it. And
there it is.
thank you.
Let me interrupt
And
you
so
for a second,
therefore-
Dennis. Dennis,
Yeah.
I got a call from Robin literally like 10 minutes before we went on the air this evening. I got a call from Robin, and it was after I had spoken with you guys about mentioning him tonight. He's doing much better. He got out of the hospital yesterday, and I will call
That's
him
always a
tomorrow.
good start.
And Gary and I will talk to him on Tales from the Golden Road tomorrow and get more of an update from him. But I spoke to him today. He sounds great. He had a couple of brushes with death. Literally, he said he might have died a couple of times recently. So I'll get some of the details about that. But as of now, he sounded great. I was just so blown away that that I got to hear his voice, because I've been getting news about him from Elena, who's taking care of him, right? So to hear his voice directly, and we'll talk to him tomorrow on Tales. But thank you for bringing Robin up. I've collected more than $30,000 for him, and it's all going to helping him because he needs 24/7 assistance right now. So all of this money goes directly to Robin's care.
Yes, and let me say also, since we mentioned Tales from the Golden Road, we may as well go ahead and shamelessly plug the fact that Mr. McNally is going to join us also tomorrow on Tales from the Golden Road to talk about something very dear to his heart and ours, the Owsley Stanley Foundation. So we'll get into that in depth tomorrow on the radio, Dennis, but why don't you give just a brief outline of what the Owsley Stanley Foundation has been doing?
Well, so Bear, Owsley Stanley, commonly called Bear, left behind, among other things, 1,300 reels. He never did anything small, okay? He built the wall. I mean, he was the main inspiration for the Wall of Sound. But his career from middle late 60s to the middle 70s in particular was recording shows as a way of studying how to create great live sound. And he's got 1,300 reels. And Starfinder, his son, and Starfinder's best pal, a guy named Hawk, together, strictly volunteer, have been working on a foundation that preserves these. And they're up to over 800, which is a damn good batting average. And one of the compliments, among other things that you can make for Bear was the breadth of his taste. So far they've released the earliest Hot Tuna, which is not surprising. They were close to Jackie Orma, but Doc Watson and Commander Cody and the current one, which I'll talk about more tomorrow, which is
writers and Indian music. It's been an amazing collection.
Yeah. Oh, and how could I forget? And yes, and Zakir Hussain as a 19-year-old playing with Ali Akbar Khan, which is beyond mind.
Stunning.
So this film is Johnny Cash at the Carousel Ballroom, right? How'd that happen?
Right. Which right away is like hilarious, right? Just it's almost an oxymoron, but there you go.
Yeah, it was during that brief but amazing Lunatics Running the Asylum period where the Grateful Dead, the Airplane, Quicksilver, and other bands took over the lease at the Carousel Ballroom and were putting on the shows there as kind of a, you don't own us to Bill Graham. And Bear was the house recordist there. And I thought, oh, well, he got incredible Grateful Dead tapes there. I only found it in the 1990s, I think when I was hanging out in the vault with Dick or maybe later with David Lemieux, he said, Oh yeah, Bear recorded everything. He recorded the opening acts. He recorded the people who played there when none of the San Francisco bands were playing, and my jaw just dropped because I know some of the people that played there, and now we're seeing the fruits of that from the Owsley Stanley Foundation. It's fantastic.
And as I say, I'll talk about it tomorrow. But the Johnny Cash comes at this amazing middle moment between him being, and right now is it I Walk the Line, the name of the movie? The middle period between when he was really messed up and when he became an American icon. He's on TV and blah blah blah, and it's right in the middle, which is why this hippie ballroom. I mean, this Johnny Cash. What is he doing playing at the Carousel? But there was a reason for all that, and we can get into it. But yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. We look forward to that.
Can we go back to talking about Susanna's photography for a few minutes? She published this book. Talk about your photography. I mean, your book is a fly on the wall with the Grateful Dead. You have a lot of intimate images. With a camera, yes.
Yeah.
You were just in some private places in your photos. There's a lot more than just like on stage and the usual stuff here, right?
Yes, I was very, very, very fortunate to be, at personal places, on stage, off stage, and backstage as well. And the offstage stuff was really interesting. I think by the time I got there, it wasn't the family in the way that Rosie when it was with Rosie, although it was definitely a family, but it was more of a magnificent structure and sort of a very huge dysfunctional family that put the fun in dysfunction. And true, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And some of the first events I was at, like the making of the Hell in a Bucket video at New George's in San Rafael, where Bobby is feeding a drink, probably alcoholic, God knows, to a duck. And some deadheads on the internet wrote me to say that they believed that the duck was named Lorenzo. So there's that information. And and
Mickey in the vacuum cleaner.
And and also the deal with the connection of Mickey and Danny Rifkin with the Gyuto monks was just wonderful, because I've traveled a lot in Asia. We're Buddhists, we're into Asian religion, and being able to be at Mickey's house, like right with these guys when they were recording. And the best part was that there was Mickey vacuuming the floor, because, you don't see that very often. I mean, it's not something you'd even imagine, any of them with a vacuum cleaner. And he really wanted the place to be beautiful because he had so much love and respect, for the monks. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful experience to share.
Fantastic. Hey, let me just, if I can interject for a second.
Of course.
This thing may end very abruptly because band members are filtering back on the stage, and they might just hit us with the word lights. And so if we cut you off in mid-sentence, it's not out of rudeness or a desire to have you gone. We love talking to you guys, but just wanted to prepare you for that moment that it may just cut off.
we can understand.
Yeah, it's show business.
Tell Bobby's way.
Oh, and another amazing event was Bobby's wedding, when after he married his longtime wonderful companion Natasha Muntu, who's the mother of their two beautiful daughters. And so it's time for the toast. And Bobby raises his glass and he says, "Well, my mama said you better shop around, and I did a lot of shopping." Until I found her, and it was really very funny and very sweet, and everybody cracked up.
Right. Well, I think Natasha,
a long time too.
I'm informed Natasha's watching tonight, so Tosh, we love you. And,
Okay.
and Bobby had a good head on his shoulders for a change when he said this
He
is the
sure
one.
did. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Dennis, other projects you have coming up? Any book ideas? Or I know you also work with the Little Village Foundation, which is a fantastic organization.
I work with them, and I work with Little Feet, and I work with various. My book project is the sort of deep background history of the Haight-Ashbury. It's called The Last Great Dream, and it's about the origins, the background. It amazes me that all the books about the Summer of Love and the Haight-Ashbury start in 1965. Usually with the charlatans at the Red Dog, which is certainly part of the story, but there was a lead up, and so I've got a first draft, and now as anybody who's written a book knows, now my work begins. But within a couple of years, hopefully.
Wow,
yeah, well,
That's the
I really look forward to that one. And it's true, like that you have a great eye for context. That was true in your Grateful Dead biography, that you go back into the earlier strains of American bohemianism that all converged, and American, and the folk scare and all those things, that made the atmosphere that made the petri dish in which the Grateful Dead grew, I guess you could say.
I just had the great experience of reading the audiobook version of Peter Richardson's No Simple Highway. And that whetted my appetite for more information about the cultural, the ground from which the Grateful Dead sprang, because he was getting into all that stuff, the art school that Jerry went to and stuff. So you're going to be expanding on that, the sort of preconditions that brought about that phenomenon.
And that was the whole thing with doing the Grateful Dead book, was Jerry was telling me this stuff. I mean, was saying, I'm part of this tradition, of this long tradition. He picked me because he liked the Kerouac book, because Kerouac was his hero. But he was very thoughtful about history and about what the Grateful Dead meant in history, and how it was really just part of this progression that goes back many, many years. So, yeah. All that stuff.
All right. Well, I really look forward to that book. Yes, indeed.
Me too.
Yeah. Boy, there's always so much to talk about with you guys. Dennis, you had the most interesting job of any publicist in rock history, because you were a publicist for a band that wasn't crazy about publicity. So so it was not hype oriented at all. It was like, you gave access to the band when you thought it was someone who could write something interesting about them, rather than trying to sell the band to the world. And I liked your style of doing that.
Thank you. Well, Jerry he really made it easy on that level. He never said no. He blew off accidentally one interview in all the time I worked with him. It was embarrassing because it was Joe Smith of Warner Brothers, who had been very good to the Grateful Dead, and it wasn't intentional. He goofed. He went to the movies. Go figure. The best was right towards the end, when he wasn't doing very many interviews, and I got pitched by the American Movie Channel about a feature they had called "The Movie That Changed My Life," and I said, "This he'll," because I don't think he'd done an interview in a year. And I said, this he'll want to do. And I went to see him in the Warfield before a Garcia Band show. And he immediately did the interview to me. Because oh yeah! And he started to talk about this movie. So yeah, I had the great luxury of being able to only do it if it was fun, which, of course, was his guiding mantra.
Right. And what I love about Jerry's choice was we go, it'll be some French New Wave classic, or it'll be something by Orson Welles, and it was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which has just become one of those great things associated with Jerry that just delights us all.
Sense of humor. It's always there.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like Wavy Gravy says, when you lose your sense of humor, it's not funny anymore, and that's a fact.
Yes, indeed. Well, clearly you two haven't.
We've all
Yeah.
in this life.
Well, and there was that thing we heard both Jerry and Bob say, like, you know, what keeps you guys together? And they both said the jokes. You know?
Well, yeah, and there was another interview in which he said, you know, seething hatred at all times.
That's right. An element of truth in both, probably.
Yeah.
All right, we have 5 band members on stage. This is the Hitchcockian moment of suspense. We don't know who the 6th is. We won't out the straggler, but this could end at any second. But we want to tell you, first of all, you have nothing to be ashamed of in following John Mayer. You did a superb job.
Okay.
And it's a delight to see you guys.
Well, it's a delight to be here, and you know, to share with you, our friends, and with the community, and appreciate the continuity. You know, and in terms of the continuity, I just love that Dead and Company can play any song like at any time, and because at the end with the Dead, it was like a lineup. You knew this song was going to be cleanup, you know, and. Yeah, and this is just very refreshing in that way, aside from the different arrangements they do.
Fell into routines in the last days of the Dead, and these guys are shaking it all up in every song. Like Phil used to say, you want any song to be able to open up at any time, and they're proving that here all the time. Okay. Yeah. 6 band members on stage, so now it's just a matter of seconds before the word crosses our path that says lights, and then we'll begin.
Right. You know,
thank you for being with us, you guys.
Yes, indeed.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Much love. Enjoy the second half, and we'll see you soon.
In person, I hope.
I hope so, too. And I know it'll be a fun play. Okay, bye.
I'll see you tomorrow, Dennis. All right. Wonderful.
And now we have to vamp until it's time.
Yeah, but that's okay. What a pleasure to talk to those two. It's been a long time. Dennis and I talk business every now and then, as do you, because he's been working on Owsley Stanley stuff. Don't get to see or talk to Susanna nearly often enough, so that was really, really a pleasure. And check out their books, please. Check out Susanna's beautiful book of photography. And Dennis, as I said earlier, is really an amazingly perceptive chronicler of cultural history of all kinds, including the Grateful Dead. So check out their work, please.
And as an oral historian, I'm particularly fond of the Q&A format, and the Jerry on Jerry is a really interesting document because it's the interviews that Dennis did with Jerry at great length for his book, his History of the Grateful Dead. And it was published in both text and audio form, so you get to hear the actual conversations from which the interviews were derived if you buy the audio version. And that's, you know, hearing Jerry in his own voice is a very cool thing that the books can't, text cannot put across.
Text can't convey inflection or sarcasm or irony or any of that, and Jerry was chock full of those qualities, and you get to hear his laugh, which is a glorious one. So it's really his enthusiasm, his verve for life and all that really come out in the audio version, although it ain't too shabby to read it in print either. So get both.
And I should remind you also that if you go over to livedead.co, you can find out how to convert this free preview of set 2 of Dead and Company into a paid viewing of the entire show, which would involve going back and watching the first set. And once you buy the webcast or the stream, you have 48 hours to watch the whole thing as many times as you like. The lights are out. The band is going back on stage. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the music, everybody.
See you tomorrow night.
share the women, we can share the wine. We can share what we got yours, 'cause we don't share all mine. Keep on rolling, just a mile to go. Keep on rolling, my own buddy, you're moving much too slow. I just jumped the watchman right outside the fence. Took his rings for bucks and change. Now, ain't that innocent? Works my ears to listen, shines and burns my eyes to see. Cut down a man in a cold blood machine. Might as well be me. We used to play for silver, now we play for life. One for sport, one for blood at the point of the knife. Now the dollar is shaking, now the dime must fall. There ain't no winner in the game. You don't go home with all, not with all. Leaving Texas for the July. Sun so hot, the clouds so low, the eagles fill the sky. Catch a Detroit lining out of Santa Fe. Great morning, out of Cheyenne, from sea to shining sea. one small point of pride. Ain't no place a man can hide shining, keep him from the sun. Ain't no bed can give us rest now. You keep us on the road.
Bye.